In this video, I've got some Kindle tips and tricks for you guys. I have two similar videos that have been extremely popular. They're the most popular videos here on the channel. But since I put out those videos, there have been some more Kindle tips and tricks that I thought were worth sharing. So this is an updated video. There are going to be some oldies but goodies in this list, and then also some new Kindle tips and tricks that I'm excited to share as well. And then the last little thing I want to mention is I've got 25 tips on this list. You are bound to know about some of these, maybe even most of these, but stick around. I promise there's going to be stuff that you haven't heard about, so it'll definitely be worth your time to watch the entire video. And last but not least, one of these tips could potentially save you up to $20, so make sure you watch all of the tips. But having said that, the very first thing that I want to mention, in no particular order, is that on your Kindle, you can actually upload custom fonts. To do this, you just have to download a font file from the internet, plug in your Kindle to your computer, and then upload that font into the fonts file on your Kindle, and boom, you're using your very own custom font on your Kindle. Tip number 2, if you're reading and you feel like the font could just be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, instead of going up to the menu and manually clicking a few buttons and adjusting the font, you can just pinch to increase or decrease the font size of your book. It's a huge time saver and makes it just a little easier to read, especially if you're reading like textbooks that have smaller font, maybe underneath an image or a caption or something like that. It's just a really nice little feature. Tip number 3, assuming that you have the ads-free version of the Kindle, you can have the book that you're currently reading be your screensaver when you're not using the device. Now, if you have the ads-enabled version, they're just going to show you whatever book they think you might be interested in, or in my experience, usually a book that you're not interested in. And you can also just leave it as the kind of default pencils, skyscrapers, kind of Amazon backgrounds. But if you want your book cover to be your screensaver, just go to Settings, Device Options, and then it's going to be the very first option. You just enable that, and then boom, your screensaver, your lock screen, whatever, is going to be the cover of the book you're currently reading. Tip number 4, sometimes you're reading and you just want to know what time it is. Have I been reading this book for the last 16 hours? Is it still the same day? Is it tomorrow? What is going on? What time is it? Well, you could take out your phone and open up a world of distractions, or your Kindle could just tell you the time. I don't know why your Kindle doesn't do this out of the box, but you can enable a setting that will allow a clock to appear at the top of your Kindle. To enable the clock, just open that little menu that only shows up when you're in a book. Click the uppercase and lowercase a icon, go over to the More tab, and then select Show Clock While Reading. In my last video, I mentioned this tip, and a lot of people commented, just buy a watch. So you could go out and spend $100 on a watch if you want, or you could press a couple buttons. It's up to you. And for tip number 5, while we have this menu open, you've probably come across this before, but just in case you haven't, you can fully customize your reading experience. You can increase and decrease the font size like we've already talked about. You can change the layout and the orientation of the book as you read. You can adjust almost every facet of how the book will appear on the Kindle device in this uppercase, lowercase a menu. There's probably a better name for it, but that's the one I've given it. For tip number 6, sometimes you just miss the feel of a book. Look, I love my Kindle, but there's nothing like reading a real physical book. You can get a little bit of that with your Kindle if you enable page turn animations. Now, this is obviously not going to replace the feel of a real life book, but it does make your e-reader experience feel just a little more authentic. The only thing I will add to that is that it does drain your battery just a little bit more if you have this feature enabled. Probably not a huge noticeable difference, but it is something to keep in mind. To enable page turn animations, you are again going to click that little A button at the top of the reading menu, and then you're going to go to More and scroll down and find page turn animations and enable or disable that feature. Tip number 7 is a brand new thing that I had not heard about until I was actually researching for this video, but apparently at some point in the not so distant past, Amazon introduced a feature called WordWise. And to the best of my understanding, WordWise works like this. You enable the feature, and then as you're reading, they will automatically define any potentially difficult words or any longer words in your book. And I think there's also an option to like generate a quiz where it will show you some potential definitions of the word, and you can like, quiz yourself and make sure you understand what that word is. I think it's mainly for non-English speakers, assuming that you as a non-English speaker are reading a book written in English and just want to kind of brush up on your English language skills. That could be entirely wrong, but in my experience, it seems like that's the point of this thing. To turn this feature on, you are again going to go to that little A menu, click More, and then scroll all the way down, and it should be the very last setting. Similar to WordWise, tip number 8 is going to be the vocabulary builder that is built into the Kindle device. So if you're reading a book and you look up the definition of a word, which you can easily do just by long pressing the word, your Kindle will potentially remember all of your dictionary lookups, save those words for later so that you can then go back and study up on these words that your Kindle assumes you had difficulty with at some point. I definitely think they had like the student in mind when they introduced this feature, but it would also be good for, again, maybe a non-English speaker or someone trying to learn a new language. You could save these vocabulary words and just kind of go back and quiz yourself. And coolest of all, there's even a little flashcard feature so you can really quiz yourself. I think it's just a lot of fun. I don't personally use it a ton, but if I was a student or someone trying to learn a language, I definitely would. Tip number 9 is a really simple one, but I do want to mention it. Your Kindle actually has a built-in bookmark. So usually, if you're like me, you'll just finish reading on your Kindle, lock the screen, throw it somewhere, and then come back a little bit later and pick up where you left. And what's great about the Kindle is it knows where you left off. When you power it up, the screen you left it on when you turned it off 5 hours ago is what's going to appear. But you can still manually bookmark your page on the Kindle. Say you want to look ahead for something or go back and maybe reread a passage or reread a chapter or reread a conversation or something like that, and then quickly come back to where you left off. All you have to do to leave a bookmark is tap the top right of the screen, and you'll know you left a bookmark when the little icon, I think it's supposed to be like a tassel, pops up. And then to easily get back to where you left your bookmark, just open up that in reading menu that we talked about and press the little bookmark icon, and it'll zoom you right back to where you left off. Tip number 10 is all about staying distraction-free, staying focused, staying productive. That is that there's actually a built-in web browser on your Kindle. Now, is it the fastest thing in the world? No. Would I try to watch a bunch of YouTube videos or something on this web browser? No, I don't even know if you can. But if I wanted to quickly look up a word or look up a book or look up an author or maybe just get a little bit more information about something that I just read, it could be very helpful because if you're like me, if you take out your phone to look up said author or whatever, you probably are going to spend 30 minutes of doing really nothing, just being on your phone for like, I don't know, that's what I do. Maybe you're different, but if you want to avoid that, just open up the web browser on your Kindle. It comes standard and built in. All you have to do to access this web browser is open up the 3 dots menu from the homepage, click web browser, and there you go. Obviously, it's only going to work if your Kindle is connected to the internet, but I assume it probably already is. And you can look up that author, book, whatever. Tip number 11, if you are really reading an information-dense book, or if there's just an all-time favorite passage or section or chapter or whatever, probably not chapter, and you want to save it, and you don't want to just highlight the whole thing and have a infinitely long highlight, you can actually screenshot on your Kindle. It's really easy to do. All you have to do to screenshot is tap the 2 opposing diagonal corners of the screen, so bottom left, top right, top left, bottom right kind of thing, and your Kindle will take a screenshot. To access this screenshot, you will have to plug your Kindle into a computer and go in and manually access it and download it to your computer. Speaking of being able to quickly access your information, tip number 12, you can connect your Kindle, which is an Amazon product, to Goodreads, which is an Amazon website, which makes it really easy to access any highlights you've made in a book or update your status of the book that you're reading. You know, on Goodreads, you can update your status manually, so you can say, I'm on page 225 of this book, or I just started reading this book, or I finished this book on this date, or whatever. Instead of manually going in and updating your reading progress, your Kindle can actually do that for you if it is linked to your Goodreads account. To connect your Kindle to your Goodreads account, it's really easy. Just go to your settings, and then click on your account, and then select social networks, and then link Goodreads account. You will have to go onto your Goodreads and connect it on that side as well, but it's super easy to do and it will walk you through the process. Tip number 13 is another simple but important one, and that is that you can easily navigate a book by opening up Grid View. To do this, just swipe up from the bottom of your Kindle if you have a book open. That will open this menu that will allow you to efficiently and effectively navigate through your book. So again, if you're reading a nonfiction or a textbook type book and you want to go back to, the last section or whatever, instead of tapping the button 500 times to go back, 20 pages or whatever, you can easily just be there in a couple swipes, a couple taps on the screen. Tip number 14 is another practical one. So say you take a lot of notes as you read and you don't want to have to try to navigate those notes on your Kindle device, which, let's be honest, is great for reading, but is not great for just about everything else. You can easily export those notes to another more efficient device. To do that, all you have to do is open up your notes on the Kindle and then export those to the email that you have on file. That'll be your Amazon email account. They'll send you over all your notes. You can do whatever you wish with them after that. But this is just another really easy way to stay a little more organized and be a little more productive. Tip number 15, hey, I don't know what you have on your Kindle. Maybe you have sensitive information and you would like a little more protection on your Kindle. You don't want your kid picking it up and looking at stuff. You don't want a stranger finding it and looking at stuff. Whatever the reason might be, you can actually set a passcode on your Kindle just to give you a little more privacy. To do this, all you're going to do is open up Settings, then click Device Options, and then enter a passcode. Tip number 16 is another one that you probably have heard about, but maybe don't use as much as maybe you should or would like to, and that is the X-ray feature. So if you're reading a complicated book or a book with lots of places or names or whatever, your Kindle will actually help you out. It'll keep track of these things. It'll try to tell you who these people are, where these places are, and so forth. And that's all going to be done on the X-ray tab. It's super easy to access the X-ray feature. Just, again, open up that in-book menu, tap the 3 dots, and then select X-ray. From there, you can navigate via the tabs at the top of the screen. Tip number 17 is helpful if you're like me and really like to know how much longer I have in a chapter or even how much longer I have in a book. What's great about the Kindle is it will estimate that for you, but depending on the book, sometimes I can breeze through an easier book and then really take my time with a more difficult book, maybe a nonfiction or something like that, and that estimated time is not always accurate. But if you want to reset that as you begin a more challenging book or reset it as you begin an easier book, you can do that simply by going to the home screen and opening up the search menu and then typing in this case-sensitive phrase. You're going to start out with a semicolon, and then you're going to type in reading with a capital R, time with a capital T, and then reset with another capital R. And then if you go back to your book, you'll see that it will now say learning reading speed. Tip number 18, if your Kindle home screen is looking just a little bit cluttered and chaotic like mine, and you want to clean it up a little bit, I think the best way to do that is with the collections feature. You can organize however you would like, by author, by genre, by whatever. I don't know, it's up to you. However you organize your Kindle, I'll leave that to you. But I usually do it by genre, and I feel that just helps to tidy things up a little bit. If I want to read a fantasy, I can easily access all my fantasy books, or if I want to read a romance, I can access all my romance books, whatever. The only thing I will say is that sometimes it can be a bit of a chore remembering to add every book that I ever put on my Kindle to a collection. It can be an extra step, but it is definitely worth it if you are a nice, neat, organized person. Number 19 is something that you might not know about, but you definitely should know about, and that is that your Kindle Paperwhite will play audiobooks for you. Now, there is a catch. You probably already know your Kindle does not have a built-in speaker, so you will need to connect via Bluetooth to a pair of headphones or a speaker or some device that will play audio that has Bluetooth connectivity. But once you've done that, if you have a book with audio enabled, that is, you've probably paid for the narration, or maybe you have a book on your Audible catalog that will automatically sync to your Kindle, you can listen to that book, which is a fantastic feature. To listen to an audiobook on your Kindle, all you're going to do is from the home screen, select the book that you would like to read. If it's an audiobook only, you will just come up with the option to listen to it. You'll see a pair of headphones. And then if it's a regular book with audio available, You'll just tap the screen to bring up that in-reading menu, and then again, select the pair of headphones. Tip number 20 is just a fun one. If you don't want your device to just be your name's Kindle like mine, it's just called Dylan's Kindle, which is kind of sad, and you want to give it a more fun name, you can easily do that by going to your settings and then selecting your account. And then the very first option will be device name. Tip number 21 is one that is definitely worth mentioning, but requires just a little bit more explanation. So I'm going to tell you about it. And then if you're interested, I invite you to go and do a quick Google search or maybe another search here on YouTube to get all the details. But on Amazon, there's something called family sharing. So say you bought a book and you would like to share it with somebody in your family, you can easily do that. It's not a very complicated process, but it does require you going over to Amazon's website and going into some of your settings and manually sharing stuff. So we'll leave that for maybe another video or a Google search of your own, but I did just want to make you aware of this ability to share books with other family members who are linked to your Amazon account. Tip number 22, if you're as big a fan of the warm light feature on the Kindle as I am, this one might be especially helpful. You can actually schedule the warm light to come on at a certain time and turn off at a certain time. You can also just turn it on automatic, which can be hit or miss. Sometimes it's really effective, and sometimes it'll turn off when I would really like it on, or turn on when I really don't need it. So in order to set this schedule, just swipe down from the top of your screen and then select warmth schedule and go ahead and put in the times that you would like it to turn on and also turn off. Tip number 23, if you find that your Kindle battery is starting to dwindle a little faster than you would like, you can do a little something about that just by adjusting a couple of settings. We already talked earlier about how the page turn animations will kind of drain your battery a little more than if it was disabled, but you can also put your Kindle into airplane mode. That will turn off the Wi-Fi connectivity and Bluetooth connectivity, and having those features on actually drains your battery just a little bit. So if you turn on airplane mode, your battery will last just a little bit longer. You can save yourself a day or two of charging. Tip number 24 is one of my personal favorites, and it's one that I wish I'd known about sooner. If you have an Amazon Alexa, or even better yet, the Amazon Alexa app, she will actually read any book in your Kindle library to you, making essentially an audiobook for free. It's super easy to do. It will require the Alexa app though, but if you download the Alexa app and you go into the play option at the very bottom on the menu there, and then scroll down to Kindle library, you can select any book there and it will actually read it for you. Now, the voice is not always perfect, but it is a free audiobook, so it's definitely worth checking out. I use this all the time. And then finally, tip number 5, and first of all, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. It really does mean a lot. Tip number 25 is one you might have heard me talk about here on the channel before, but if you haven't, it is a really great one. If you have an ads-enabled Kindle, that is, you didn't pay the $20 extra to get ads removed, there's a really, really good chance, like just about 100% chance, that you can get ads removed off of your Kindle for absolutely free. I've done it on every device that I own. All you have to do is open up a chat with Amazon customer service and just ask them to do it. If you just ask nicely to remove ads off of your Kindle, they will probably do it. If it doesn't work the first time, you can always just go back and try again with another representative. I have had trouble in the past with some, but in the end, it's always worked out. Just a little patience and a little kindness will save you $20. So test it out. Let me know if it works. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have your own Kindle tip that you want to share, please feel free in the comments below. And if you have any specific questions about your Kindle, please feel free to leave those in the comments below, and I'll try to help you out as best as I can. But thank you so very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.